SOS. Can anyone read me? This is Space Colony Omicron, hailing on all frequencies. For the love of heaven, if anyone out there is listening, we're being overrun. This is Dr. Jared Kepler, here with my children Jan and Jace. We require immediate assistance. Today, on the Comic Book Report, Space Ghost Volume 1, with only ghosts to comfort us. Stick around and check it out. Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I'm really excited to be reviewing a book I've been thinking about quite often recently. Yes, we're looking at Dynamite Comics' Space Ghost Volume 1, with only ghosts to comfort us. This was a title that personally I had heard a lot of really good things about, and I'm happy to say this book lived up to expectations and then some for me. I can't wait to jump into today's collection, but before we do, I just want to say a huge thank you to those at Dynamite for sending over this review copy in exchange for this honest review. And also, I'd like to just generally shout out our channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can find a link for them on this video's description, and if you see anything on their site you like, you can use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The comics in this volume were written by David Pepose, with art from Jonathan Lau. The comics in this volume were first published by Dynamite in 2024. This volume itself collects Space Ghost, the Volume 1, issues 1 through 6. And finally, this is a standard size trade paperback edition with glossy print paper stock, a glued binding, and a total of 144 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first dedicated look at the front cover for today's trade paperback from Dynamite. I should note that there's also a standard edition hardcover release for this very title as well from Dynamite, though unless I'm mistaken, I believe the art should be consistent as well as the interior contents. So a couple different format options for all of you collected edition collectors out there. I absolutely love the image they have on this front cover, lifted from one of the single issue covers, of course, Space Ghost looking ethereal, intense, and rad. As we make our way to the spine though, we have the company, of course, we have Dynamite there, we have the title of the collection in a really fun font, I think, and then we have the last names of the creators, writer and artist, of course, and a little Volume 1. It's all white text across a field of black. I think it looks really sleek on a bookcase, if I'm honest with you, and that Volume 1 definitely leaves me excited for subsequent entries. Along the back cover, we have a little bit of review and accolades for this collection, a bit of a description about the book, pricing information, all of that, and also a very cool enshrouded in darkness picture of Space Ghost, also lifted from one of the issues. Really brilliantly done here. I do love the artistry we have on the cover for this collection. Really well done, Dynamite. Okay, another thing I wanted to take note of is just the binding of this collection. So it is a standard size trade paperback, and of course we do have that glued binding. Nothing too crazy here. I didn't really notice too much gutter loss in my collection. I think it was well bound. No real complaints. This is all pretty standard fare for trade paperbacks as far as I'm concerned, so yeah, pretty good. But as always, of course, you can check out the binding as I make my way through the book during the flip through next. And with that, we are off. And as we enter the collection, we have a great title page, followed by a publication and creator breakdown page. Really great to see this. We have a lot of great lush art across it, which is always fun. Then we have an introduction from series writer David Pepose. This was always really fun to see. I really like, especially in a trade paperback collection, when we have extras, introductions or afterwards are of particular note for me. They're like little fun essays that help tee off the collection or kind of reflect on it. So really happy to see that. After that, we jump into a page that kind of gives a little bit of a setup for who Space Ghost is. Again, another little bit of written text here, and then we jump into the issue 1 from there. I like that we have something that sets up who this character is, while you can absolutely just jump right in here. If you have never read or watched or encountered anything Space Ghost, you can absolutely pick up this collection and have everything you need to get started. They do kind of flash back to origin story kinds of moments, and this is really a ground floor, get started with this franchise kind of book, but it is still nice to have that little bit of a written blurb to kind of set the stage. Of course, Space Ghost is probably most known for his, I believe, Hanna-Barbera animated series from long, long ago. Since then, he's also had kind of other revivals or reboots. He was in the, I think, 90s or early 2000s, part of Space Ghost Coast to Coast, which made him sort of a talk show host for a late night show, again, animated. But this is the first comic book property, if not ever, then for sure in quite some time. And honestly, this character lends itself so well to this medium. It's kind of groundbreaking for me. I cannot believe we have not seen a rich comic book history for this character really before this point, and I hope that this is the start of a really, really solid one. Honestly, I think that this is one of my favorite just volume 1 launches to essentially a superhero title I've read in some time. So let's just get talking about it. What is Space Ghost? Space Ghost is sort of an avenging, kind of cosmic superhero. He has these kind of technologically advanced bands that can shoot lasers or beams from them. He can fly around. He has almost all of his exploits in space. He has a bunch of technology, ships, things like that. And in the beginning of this story, he gets paired off with these 2 children who have been orphaned, Jan and Jace. Them, along with a monkey sidekick, basically start having these interstellar adventures, fighting back against the forces of evil of all kinds. Honestly, for me, I remember watching some of that original cartoon series that I believe came out in the 60s, again, unless I'm mistaken. I remember him as a talk show host as well, but even with that, it was still fun seeing characters like Brack or Zorak or some of these kind of half-remembered characters from my childhood. The nostalgia factor was certainly rich, and yet I felt like I was experiencing it all with new eyes, especially with the fantastic artwork from Jonathan Lau. What I really liked about this series is, yes, we have a far-flung sci-fi pulpy kind of adventure series with a lot of notable characters, but more than that, it's a very character-driven sort of action drama in space. I love that the young wards, the Jan and Jace, and even the monkey by an extension, they're all really grounded characters, and the interplay between them and the titular Space Ghost are really at the heart of what makes this series work for me. You pair that with the fact that a lot of these issues are kind of standalone or 1 to 2 issue arcs. You have this kind of episodic adventure of the week or month kind of feel, and I think that that is absolutely fantastic for a book like this. Each issue, for the most part, lent itself to a new kind of fight against a different evil villain, but while we had kind of the deepening of relationship amongst that central cast of characters. It really works for me in this episodic format. While there could be bigger and more broader overarching story arcs in the future, perhaps, I do think that this series, again, just excels in this way. I love that we have the villain of the week kind of feel. I love the action sequences as well. As much as this is so intensely character-driven and well-written, I do think it's elevated by the art of Jonathan Lau. It is such an immersive piece of art. I love that all of the different kind of space, planets, space station, technologies, costuming, everything is so richly detailed and immersive and it's just so poppy. It really pops right from the page. Lau seems to have such a commanding grasp as well of action sequences. It feels exceedingly well choreographed. You almost look like you're looking at a really polished storyboard in the best way possible. I really love how distinct the character models are. Seeing Space Ghost in his incredible kind of white, black, and yellow costume, flashes or accents of red as well. It's just really, really stark and interesting against a lot of his backdrops or a lot of the colorful villains he faces off against. He just seems like absolutely pitch perfect a superhero, although there's a lot of brokenness invests in this character, and you get so much of that just in the detailed artwork, especially the face, like the way that Lau presents the expressions on these characters. It just has so much emotion. But yeah, this is a really fun series. Like I said, I'm not going to go super heavy into spoilers. Essentially, this team, you deal with their formation, and then you have them kind of going through highs and lows across these first couple issues. There was a pretty intensive dramatic moment where one of the sidekicks actually ends up, well, apparently killing one of the villains in a moment of self-defense or trying to save one of their friends. And it's just a really powerful moment that shifts the dynamic of this team for a while, and you really have lasting consequences. As much as the issue was fairly self-contained, we have kind of reverberations off of that in the next issue or two. And I really like that. I think that that is a good example of how this series does episodic issue-based storytelling while also keeping an overarching kind of plot thread just with the character development. This book was really well paced for me as well. You get like a sense of bang for your buck. You have a lot of small adventures in this one trade paperback or standard size hardcover, and I just had fun from the very beginning to the last panel. I was grinning from ear to ear quite a bit reading this. I felt like I was going on these adventures, getting lost in these worlds and in these pages, and I think that that is such a great marker for particularly a science fiction or fantasy based series, is that world building, is that immersion. And between the writing and the art here, that is absolutely what my experience was reading Space Ghost Volume 1. And as I mentioned at the top, this is the first 6 issues of this run. I believe it goes through issue 12, and then there's an annual, if I'm not mistaken. After that point, Dynamite is relaunching this title with a fresh issue 1, but never fear, the writer and illustrator are returning. This dream team is continuing their ventures through space. I got to learn a little bit more about that when I spoke to David Pepose again on the channel not too long ago. If you missed that interview, I will try to tag it in this video, so you can check that out if you'd like. But from what I gathered from what Pepose was saying, it sounds like the reissuing of this upcoming issue 1 coming this summer, it feels like it's going to be more of a season 2 rather than a fresh reboot or relaunch. And I really like that. I like that we are kind of having the further adventures of this same team. You're going to have that visual fidelity with the artist returning as well. And honestly, I'm pretty eager. I can't wait to read what I hope is contained in the volume 2 and beyond, because again, this was one of my favorite reading experiences in a while for a volume 1 trade. After the 6 issues, I am happy to say that we have a good, healthy amount of extras as well. We have an afterword or two, we have a cover art gallery, some kind of character models, behind the scenes artwork, and honestly, that's pretty extensive for a trade paperback of this kind. I loved seeing how packed out this was with extras, particularly the written work between the introduction and the afterwords. We got a lot of good written material here, as well as bonus artwork. And that's about going to wrap us up for Space Ghost Volume 1 with Only Ghosts to Comfort Us from David Pepose and Jonathan Lau from Dynamite Entertainment. I had so much fun with this title. This is one I've been thinking about since I've completed it. It's one I've been waiting to review and recommend to all of you. I'd love to know what you all think of this title in the comments. And now let's go ahead and give this book a grade. For an incredible first volume that not only establishes the origin for the central cast of characters, but takes us on our first several ventures out with this team, the Comic Book Report is happy to give Space Ghost Volume 1 with Only Ghosts to Comfort Us a B. This is a well above average read that I was delighted by. The character development was all well-paced and rock-solid in my mind. The art on each and every panel from Jonathan Lau was explosive, poppy, and absolutely engaging and immersive. And again, it was just a great first volume for a series. I can't wait to see where the story takes us from here, but I, for one, am a fan of the Space Ghost comics. Again, in the comments, I would love to hear what you all think of this series. Have you checked it out? Have you been wanting to? Or like me, are you just still scrambling to catch up, but you're already interested? Let me know again, all of that in the comments section. And if you want to hear a little bit more of what's to come for this Space Ghost title, check out the linked video with my interview with David Pepose. A huge and heartfelt thank you to those at Dynamite for sending over this review copy, and to all of you for taking the ride along with me. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to give this video a like, that comment we talked about, and maybe share this video with a friend. Thanks everyone, bye.